Well, if you want some radical optimism, you've come to the right place. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Corey.
And this week we will be discussing the most recent album from Dua Lipa, as we said we would do last week, Radical Optimism. Um, I have to say, I picked that album before some things happened. I don't have a ton of radical optimism about our future right now, but we're here to discuss it, so that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, man. Radical Optimism is such a wild title. And her saying like it's about the pure joy and happiness of having like clarity in these situations really, really pumped my vibe up to hear what she had here because this is a departure from what we got from her on Future Nostalgia, like a big departure in my opinion.
Yeah, a very big one, and this automatically is an anticipated follow-up. Future Nostalgia was really a remarkable, not only remarkable album, but a remarkable era, kind of like we don't usually get in the streaming days with multiple singles and videos. Huge rollout, like the songs that were popular throughout 2 years. And it started in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, so that made what she did all the more impressive. And it really was. It's actually been called the teenage dream of the 2020s because of the long album cycle and the multiple singles and videos and all that. It didn't have quite that level of dominance, but then again, nothing really did. Only one of her album has five number one hits on it besides Teenage Dreams. So,
I can totally see that. And those, it's wild to think that that was 4 years in between Future Nostalgia and this, and how much she really stayed in the eye. Talk
yeah.
about that long, that long album cycle. That was uh a very neat thing to see. And she really put her stamp on it.
Yeah, definitely. She has definitely kept her name out there. And in the lead up to this album, right before it, we did get right before this, Dua Lipa was in the Barbie movie and contributed a song to the soundtrack Dance Tonight, which was a summer hit
Yeah.
last year. Definitely got a lot of rotation and it had staying power. And that's kind of an interesting spot to be in when you want to start your next album cycle, when you have a soundtrack hit, but that's where she was this time, it seems like. Yeah, this album it's pretty crazy. After the meticulous planning of the future nostalgia era, this one's been a bit more haphazard in its rollout, actually. The lead single was released over 6 months before the album, and
Wow.
it hurt some of the momentum for this. Big time. It just was bits and pieces about the next Dua Lipa album, and we'll talk about the lead single when we get to it. And yeah, I saw her at the Grammys. I know she performed this year, and I watched her performance, and she put a new song in it, and it wasn't even released for a couple weeks afterwards. So that just really killed some momentum that she had going in. And this album, yet it's gotten a bit lost in the shuffle this year. It's been said 2024 has been just a big pop year. It's been the sound of the year, and there are people making huge hits. And in the US, at least, Dua Lipa's name is definitely still out there. Everybody knows who she is. The tour for this album's actually sold really well, but the songs just have not stuck in the same way that any of the future nostalgia ones have. And it seems like it's a bit too late for that to happen, unfortunately. But this is also a different album for her. It's mostly produced by Kevin Parker, aka Tame Impala, so that suggested a more psychedelic direction for this album.
Yeah, his sound is definitely here. I mean, he's all over the album, but it's wild how much of a I know she was going for that Brit pop psychedelic feel here, but I guess it was wild to me I expected a little bit more of future nostalgia sound, and she really spun it and flipped it on its head here.
Yeah, she did. And that is a bit of a challenge because a lot of people loved future nostalgia. Like, this took some getting used to. I am glad that I got to spend some time with this album. So, and really
Agreed.
give it the look it deserves. Because I think when it first came out, we were covering other stuff at the time. So I didn't spend a ton of time with it. And it's been a bit more muted. She hasn't been the pop girl this year. It's been all about like Sabrina Carpenter and Billie Eilish. They've been taking over. Dua Lipa's been a bit quieter, but her name is still out there. I mean, it's definitely just a bit of a transitional time for her, but she's still a big artist. And I mean, this album's gotten pretty good reviews from critics. It wasn't nominated for any Grammys, that was actually a change because Future Nostalgia was nominated for quite a few. Um, so was a
Yeah,
change.
and not getting too far ahead of myself, but you can see that with this album. Um, as approachable as it is sonically, in my opinion, it doesn't necessarily scream Grammy, even though it's a great album. It's a well done album. It's just it's almost like a relaxing, easy listen compared to the other stuff, to that harder pop, for lack of better words, that more in your face pop. Here it's a little bit more, in my opinion, laid back.
Oh, I completely agree with that. Yeah, it's almost mellow in comparison to just songs like Don't Start Now or Physical. Those are so in your face and they work. The question is, did it work here? And commercially, I wouldn't call this a complete flop. It's charted pretty well. It debuted at number 2 in the US. It was one of many albums blocked from the top spot by the Tortured Poets Department, unfortunately. Talk about a disappointing album of 2024. Still don't like it, folks. Not sorry to say that. Still
Right.
not a big fan of that one. And of course, she's still doing well in the UK. Yeah, she's still a big name, but I'm ready to talk about these songs because I do like Dua Lipa. I think Future Nostalgia is one of the best pop albums in recent years, and I want to talk about how she followed it up.
Let's get at it.
So the album starts with the song "End of an Era," appropriate title for an album opener in this case because it's a breakup song, for one. She's saying goodbye to a lover, and it's a new album cycle, especially after all the talk of the future nostalgia era. So, it's good opening song hook, I believe. Um, I enjoy the spoken word bits of it a lot. That's a real highlight of it for me. Um, Honestly, to me, this is what you'd call an I'm back bitch song. It's one of
Right.
those kind of songs. And a bit more muted than you might expect from that kind of song, but it works. And it does have a bit of the psychedelic vibe that she was going for. I think this is one of the songs where that comes across most clear. And I think this is a good opener.
Yeah, it's a quality opener. I really love what she's doing here. I'm so glad you talked about those spoken word parts, because it really sets you up for this album, but it really sets this sound apart from what she's done before. Because even though we get that, it seems to me that she loves to be inside of this bass driven beat. And I dig that. I mean, even if you go back to like Don't Start Now, you get that wild bass run that's just so in your face. It's muted here, but it's still there, and she sits inside of it well. The spoken parts almost remind me of like the beat for like Flashing Lights, or just some really well done. I'm gonna say this a bunch, but there's a lot of Brit pop elements. I know that was on purpose, but like I hear a lot of Verve and a lot of Blur throughout this album. So we get a bunch of that here, with some record rewind scratches and stuff like that added in. It's really well done, and it opens up perfectly. End of an era, lets us know not only to our subconscious listener, but right in our face in the title, we're switching gears here. I'm letting you know I'm going into a new sound, and it's really well done with this opener here.
Yeah, and it definitely makes you want to know what's coming up next. And we got that with our lead single, which is Houdini. So yeah, this was released in October of last year, and this album was not released until May. So way too long of a wait. They should have waited to release this as a single. Now, when the song came out, I immediately said, oh, new Dua Lipa song. I'm guessing this will be the single for her next album. And I really liked this song immediately. I thought, it's a bit different for her with the psychedelic sounds. It was pretty present on this song as well. But I thought, the song's very catchy, definitely an earworm. And it did pretty well. It debuted at number 11 on the Hot 100, and it ended up peaking there, which I think is a bit of a disappointment. I do think this is a quality song. I do feel it was just a big mistake to release this while Dance the Night was still in such heavy rotation.
Yep.
I think they should have just waited until the Barbie Awards season was over and it wasn't so everywhere Barbie, 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 because you couldn't escape that movie or any of the songs. You just couldn't. And they should have waited a bit to put this out as a single, because it is a worthy single. The fact that it underperformed a bit is not a reflection of its quality. I think this is one of her strongest singles.
It really is. In this number two spot, pacing wise, perfectly set here. It's a strong song all the way around. As a musical composition, it's strong. It's produced super beautifully. There's strength in everything, including these backing vocals over top of this earwig of a refrain, of a hook, and it really gets you moving. It's a great dance tune. It never falters in. It's only 3 minutes and 5 seconds, but it never really falters in its pacing inside of the song, and I love that. It also, for me, is this beautiful musical roller coaster, because even though at first listen it could just be a straightforward sound, your first time, when you really start to break this song down, it runs the gamut of sounds inside of it, and it really does a great job. Not so much producing, it really does a great job showing us this total package, and I enjoy it. I 100% agree with you that it got lost in the shuffle here. This is one you hold tight to the chest and then let it die down, like you said. Let Barbie and that whole movement be done, and then let people know this is your new sound, rather than having it set up against something that was that old sound. This got lost in the shuffle, but really great number two, and an earwig of an awesome pop hit, and in my opinion, a great song.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and this new sound continues with the next track and the second single, Training Season. I remember hearing this song for the first time, actually, because she premiered it at the Grammys. It was in a medley with Houdini and Dance the Night. And I thought, okay, so she's got a new song in here in addition to the two most recent singles. I dig that. And I thought it was a good performance that she gave. And then the song just wasn't released. It's like, so we know this song exists, but it's not out. Like, so yeah, it wasn't released for another couple of weeks, which, okay, that was a mistake because you lost hype in that time for it. I
Yeah.
mean, you just did. So yeah, Warner, that was a big fumble on the label's part. In this case, Warner Records. Shame on you for that. Um, I this is a good pop song. Like it's catchy, but I do have an issue with this I wish they went with a different metaphor than training season. I don't think that metaphor fully works. Um, like I get what she's going for, but I think they could have expressed it better if you're gonna be, doing a kiss off goodbye to an ex kind of song. I mean, it did okay. It peaked at number 4 in the UK and 27 in the US. I don't think this song had that much of a chance stateside. Obviously, it made the fans happy. A lot of fans preferred this to Houdini. I don't. Um, like it's just that the fact that it's called training season and that's the what we chose to go with, it just brings the song down and it shouldn't be brought down because other than that, this is a strong track as well.
I can see what you're saying here. More so, I vibe with it. I'm a huge soccer fan. I don't know if our listeners know that. I don't know if we touch on that a lot, but huge soccer fan. And her saying that she wanted to celebrate her London upbringing and that London sound. I can see where this doesn't necessarily translate to American listeners as far as that metaphor goes, but for me, it hit 100%. Maybe I'm a little bit role playing and getting in there and putting myself inside the song, but I enjoyed it. And now, as far as a track, here we go. We're on track 3. This one is my one of the first ones when I did the deep dive for this that I just kept going back to. There's so much beauty in the music of this song. Starts out with this muted guitar track that really doesn't leave us, but it just builds and it has these beautiful house crescendos where for me, as a listener, I'm expecting it to come off into like some like hard house, and it just goes back into this muted hook. And I love the way it does that. The transitions in the song are phenomenal, and it's a nonstop ride of sounds. It is hot tea take. It's one of my favorites on the album. I get down with this song.
I wouldn't say that's a hot tea take. I don't like it quite as much as you do, but I can see why they chose it as a single. There's a lot of good stuff going on in this
Yeah,
song. There is.
there is. It definitely is.
Um, Now the question is, can she keep it contained to these walls, which is the next song? Which she said that she wrote about how you can just pick up on energy in a room, like you can tell if people have been fighting in a room, even if it's empty. So it goes to this idea of if these walls could talk. And that's a good idea for a song, and it's the first song not produced by Tame Impala. This one was produced by Andrew Wyatt, who worked with her on the Barbie song. I'm glad that he went in a different sonic direction from that song, which frankly I thought was mediocre and just sounded like a reject from Future Nostalgia. Just got put in a good movie that was really popular. But um I do. This one's a grower when I first heard this, but this is different. It listening to it a few times, I came to appreciate it more. It looks like this is the current single. It was just released. I hope this song does well. I'm not sure how it'll do. I'm not sure if everyone will love it. It's not quite as broad of an appeal as some other tracks here, but it's a cool song, and I like the lyrical idea of it, of if these walls could talk, and I think they translated that all and put it together beautifully.
Yeah, it's wild because this one is where I go when I'm talking about like the easy listening aspect of it. And even though it's a solid song, it's very much it's so much more soft than the rest of the album or a lot of the album and a lot of her sound. You get a totally different sound here almost, and I dig it, but this one was a grower for me as well, where I had to go back and really break it down, not to love it, but to really understand it and why it was. At first, I thought it was misplaced pacing wise, but now I disagree with my earlier listening opinion here. This is where I think she hits the nail right on the head after a bunch of listens. As far as Britpop, I get a lot of bittersweet symphony feel here, like a lot of verve here, especially the way this opens with that like no bass treble version of this little piano riff underneath. It's really really well done. You get an acoustic guitar just strumming behind, and it lays well. I'm with you. I hope this song does well. I don't see this song charting as hard as I would want it to in the States, just because I feel like it's a little bit too easy for the pop sensibility that the masses have right now. Just my opinion, but all in all, a good one. Number 4, it gives us a little bit of a transition here as far as pacing goes. I think it does well. I really do. I do 100% agree with you. I wish this song well, and it's definitely in my playlist.
Yeah, I'm wishing it well too. And I mean, when it comes to the US charts, I'll have a bit more to say in a few tracks. We are not there yet.
Heard that.
We'll get there. But before we're there, we're on to track 5, which is What You Doing? I feel like this is another more of a mid-tempo, somewhat easy listening track. It reminds me a bit of Pretty Please from Future Nostalgia. I don't like it quite as much as that song. Uh, It's catchy. This one, it's a grower. I think it's good, but I don't think it goes from good to great. It doesn't get there like I want it to. I wish it did, but it just doesn't. And the what you doing lyrical motif is going to be used again and better here.
Yeah, this one, this is one of these rare occurrences where I want to love a song and more than I do. um, I'm a sucker for this beautiful bass line, reminiscent for me of like some Jamiroquai here. And I really love the what she does with her voice in here. She gets a little bit of this, not so much raspy, but her delivery is unique in this, and I enjoy it. Unfortunately, I'm quoting you. That's such a great way to put this. This is a good song that you want to go great, and it doesn't. It sort of just sits on this bass groove, and it really doesn't shine the way it should. Is it where it is on the album? No, I don't think so. I think it's just an okay song, and it I say that stinks just because I love so many parts of this song, but as a whole, it sort of falls flat. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It inside where it is in this album, it does fall flat. As far as the sounds we've heard prior and the sounds we'll hear afterwards, and like you said, we're going to hear this a little bit again, and it's done better.
Yeah, that it is. But we're not there yet. We are now on to the next song, which is French Exit. Goodbye to a next song. She's done these before, and she can do them well. Love the production on this song. Love the strings, all the live instruments, just beautifully done. Musically, great. My issue is that when it comes to lyric slash vocal performance, this is underwhelming for me. I feel like her vocal is a bit phoned in on this song. Uh, like she knows how to convey this emotion. Like we've heard New Rules, we've heard Don't Start Now. She conveyed that better than she did here, and she was supposed to do that again, and it didn't quite work for her. And it's a shame because I really do like the production and the music on this song. I just found it underwhelming, though.
Yeah, I searched my feelings a lot on this one too, because not to be redundant, but I have a lot of the same feelings here that I did for What You Doing. More so in the fact of what you were saying, where like there's beautiful music here, it just doesn't take off. And as far as her specifically on this track, it's missing something. It's missing that final piece here to elevate this song. As a 6 track middle of the album, bring it down a bit. I can see it, but it still doesn't hit the way it should. It's I sort of feel like that sounds like a cop out, after
Oh,
what we said for what you're doing, but it's just the way this song ends up being on the album. I won't say that I wanted to love this song like I did what you're doing, because again, there's some cool parts in it, but it doesn't as a whole hit the way it should. And I'm 100% again with you. She does these songs really well. So this one, man, I'm gonna say it, unfortunately was a miss for her, in my opinion.
yeah. Big time. And I like what you said about bringing it down a bit because I don't see the point in bringing the album to a halt a bit when the next song is the biggest dance track on here, which is
Sure.
Illusion, track number 7. This to me is the first true dance song on the album. I don't really feel like we'd gotten that up to this point because she wanted to do something different. But you know what? She does dance songs really well. This is the kind of song that I want to hear from Dua Lipa and what a lot of people want to hear from her. And it works. This is one of my favorite singles of the year. I adore this song. It was already one of my most played even before we were doing this. This was first list. I was like, I am going to keep coming back to Illusion. Just it's got a bit like some French house in it. Just
Yeah.
all these great sounds. And Kevin Parker produced it. And I think that's great because it does show. I feel like this is as ideal of a merge of the sounds of these artists that you can get, is what we got on Illusion. And frankly, I wish more of the album was like this song
Yeah.
because I enjoy it so much. But I'm really glad that we have this song. This was released very shortly before the album as a single. Unfortunately, momentum had been lost. And I've heard this on the radio quite a few times, but this only made it to number 43 on the Hot 100. And no, just no. This should have at least been a top 10 hit, if not a number one. This is a great song, and this was a summer jam. I'm very saddened that this song got lost in the shuffle a bit in terms of 2024 pop songs.
I keep saying 100% with you, but here's the thing: Lost in the Shuffle is the whole mode for this song. Unfortunately, I love it. You take this song off the album and play it, oh man, it's a banger all the way through. Great song, 100% produced. I'm gonna go out, and I have this in my notes. This is a straight up Tame Impala Dua Lipa crossover event. And this is what, if you're going to come out and say you're moving into a psychedelic sound, this is it, man. This is the way I think a lot more of the album should have been done. And I love it. We talk about that slowness of French Exit, going straight into Illusion in an album sense. It almost makes this song a little bit more of a one note run through here, where it doesn't necessarily bring the album up right away, and that's tough. I think putting French Exit in front of this really diminishes it in the album sense, where this is such a banger and on its own such a great song. It's tough coming out of French Exit. I've done it like, I would say, like 20 times, going through and being like, wow, they really chose a I won't use the word terrible, but just not the best segue into such a powerful, awesome banger. And I'm with you, like the dance song of this album.
Yeah, I agree. It should have been surrounded by a stronger song. Um, I don't think it's the most representative song of the album, but I do think this should have been the lead single. I think it would have smashed if it were. This was right there, and that I think is the biggest fumble of this whole album cycle, which has gotten some criticism. But
Right.
that to me is the biggest fumble because this should have been way bigger in the US than it was. It should have been bigger. It's a great song. I'm glad it exists. It's in my heart. It's a number one hit. So,
I
uh,
heard that.
but fortunately, we're going to continue with the dance songs with the next track, which is Falling Forever. This was produced by Ian Kirkpatrick, who has produced both Don't Start Now and New Rules. So makes sense that Dua Lipa would work with him again, considering those are like two of her biggest hits ever. Those two and Levitating, that's the Dua Lipa trio right there of mega hits. Um, this is the song that I think is the closest to future nostalgia. Um, and in that case, it feels a bit out of place here, but I really, really enjoy this song, and I'm glad it's on the album. And I hope it is a single if they're still going to be releasing singles for it when she's on tour next year, because I know she just started out in Asia, but there she'll be in Europe and the US in the coming months. I think this should be a single. I really enjoy this track, and she didn't even include it on her tour set list, which is not smart in my opinion, but I guess that was their decision. And you know what? It's her best vocal here and an album highlight.
I enjoy it. I really do. I this song immediately made me think of you because I feel like she does a lot of Cher stuff here. For her to be one of the person putting Cher into the Rock Hall of Fame. This one reminded me of had a Cher-ness about it. It has a nostalgic disco-ness almost to it, and I dig it. I dig it. I'm with you. This is a very strong vocal performance from her, and it's different than a lot of this album. It doesn't stick out like a sore thumb to me, but as we get later on in this album, the pacing and song selection is getting a little bit tougher as far as a cohesive listening experience. And I, not to beat a dead horse, but I feel like it could have been structured a different way to really focus on the strengths of some of these songs, and this is one of them.
Most definitely. And yeah, she does sound better on this than she did performing Believe at the Rock Hall induction. That was not the song for her to do. I do wish Kelly
Yeah.
Clarkson had sung with Cher instead, because Kelly did Foreigners tribute. But I now Kelly's on a new version of DJ Play a Christmas Song, which is on repeat for me. I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Maybe more on that later. Who knows? But yeah, um, yeah, it was an appropriate time for her, I guess, to do all of this whole Cher tribute. Not her first Cher homage, and I think there is some of that. I think there's a bit of that influence of late '90s Believe era Cher in this song for sure. Um, but we're gonna switch gears a lot with the next song, which is Anything for Love, also produced by Ian Kirkpatrick. It starts off as a piano ballad. Halfway through, it picks up to a more mid-tempo kind of jam. It's a very short song, only 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and in this case, it's to its detriment. I think the song just goes by a bit too quickly. Like you have to listen to it multiple times to pick up on what stands out about it, I think, because just in this cycle, it kind of just goes by and you don't notice it much, I think, initially, especially after two dance bangers. I mean, it's grown on me a bit. I just wish that it was more fleshed out. It feels a bit unfinished, and that's a shame because there are good ideas here. And she seems like she's having fun recording it based on the introduction of the song with her friends in the studio doing it. They're just jamming, doing their thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the hot tea take track for me because I was with you. I heard the intro with the friends, and I was like, okay, here we go. This is going to be a wild one. It's an unfinished thought. It's too short. There's some cool ideas here. Hot tea take. This is a throwaway track for me. This is the only song on the album where I'm trying to find reasons why I like it. And if I'm have to look that hard into the song, unfortunately for me, it fails. Yeah, this one was a total miss, and it really feels like an afterthought. I could see this as like a hidden track. Back in the day, we put a track after the last one. This is a cool hidden track, but as far as a fully fleshed out album track, this is not, unfortunately. Maybe it's to its detriment that it's this short, but for me, that's a positive because it's a throwaway. Oof, hot tea take,
It
but
I don't disagree. I'm sure some do disagree with us, but I don't.
Heard.
I think it's a tosser. But fortunately, I don't think the next song is, which is Maria. It's not a Blondie cover, though that would have been cool if she did that song, because
Throw it
that's a
up.
great Blondie tune. Yeah, this is a Spanish guitar dance track, and I love that. It's a killer Spanish guitar on this track. It's a bit of a grower. It's different for her. It's not a full, like, four on the floor dance floor song. It's not that kind of thing, but it sinks in and it stays there and it's good. It's a good song. I just wish it was a bit long. I wish it was a bit longer so it could fully stick the landing. I don't think it fully does, but if it were a bit longer, then it could. This is a short album. Just these pop albums these days, man, they're too short. Like they're all under 40 minutes. I'm just like, really? Why? Give us longer songs, completed thoughts.
Yeah. This is truly a different song for her, and it does a great job inside of itself. It's a great composition. I agree with you. Could have been a little longer and really flesh it out, but it does its job here. It's a wild sound. I've been tossing around the idea if I was going to say this or not, and I'm just going to get it out there with her in the lower registers and the Spanish or these wild Spanish sounds, and in my opinion it really ends up sounding like a Shakira song to me. And I can't take myself out of that. It's a cool one. I will give it this as well, to add to it being an awesome song. It is neatly put here. I was just really bashing the way this album has been structured in the latter half, but this is a cool penultimate song because it's super different. It immediately brings you back into a jarring listening experience because it's so different, and it's a great song. So for me, it does stick a landing, and that is the landing of it being this penultimate track here, and it does its job well.
Now that you mentioned this sounds like a Shakira song, I'm not going to be able to get that out of my head, and now I wish Shakira sang it. Sorry, Dua Lipa, but
All week long I've been on it like, oh my gosh, it's I can't shake it. It's a
uh,
Shakira jam for me.
yeah,
You rarely hear Dua Lipa singing in those lower registers, so
yeah.
it went well with the song. And another, that weird pan flute in the middle or whatever that is a grower. It was a sound at first there I was like, oh, that's a weird one. It works out. I guess they say it's a whistle in here, but it's a neat track. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that it is. That it is. And now we're at the end of the album. I told you this was a short album. Only 11 tracks, not even 40 minutes. But it's the longest song here though for the closer, which is Happy for You, a breakup song where she's happy for her ex. I'm guessing this is about Anwar Hadid, who she dated for a couple of years. Not together anymore. Of course, yeah, and yeah, he's one of those Hadids, big family. This one grew on me. I don't think ballads are really her strong suit, and this is the closest that we get to that here. But I've come to appreciate it more as I've listened to it, and Dua Lipa even admitted in an interview that she doesn't really write personal lyrics. This is a personal song, though.
Yeah.
Like, it does give us some insight into her life, and I think that's good because if you want to build a dedicated fan base, you should provide some insight and let people know what's going on. I don't think this is like the most unique breakup song I've ever heard. It doesn't like it's not that, but it's a well-produced and sung song, and it does tell us what's going on with her life and how she's feeling about her love life, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, to hear her say that she doesn't do personal lyrics, I'm gonna say no way. For this one, no way. It's too not too personal, but for saying that it really, if it's not personal, it hits him like it is personal, is what I'm trying to say here. It does a really great job making the listener feel, making me feel. Especially as the final track. I'm glad it was this long because it does a great job taking its time and building itself and really fleshing itself out. At first listen, I was a bit taken back that we got this as the final track, but after going through the album a bunch, it really is fitting and it sends us off with a full package of what she set out in her mission statement here. We get a little bit of the psychedelic, we get a little bit of the Brit, we get a little bit of the Dua Lipa core elements here. We get a great vocal performance, and all of that together in this 4 minutes and 5 seconds really culminates in a fully fleshed out final track here. And I dig it.
Yeah, so do I. Great way to end the album. And
Yeah.
our discussion on radical optimism. I'm glad we got to do this album. Not quite as crazy as our Katy Perry discussion, but that's okay. That's okay. This was a little reprieve from all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's good. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, me too.
What is your grade for this album?
Oh, Dua Lipa, Radical Optimism. I really enjoyed this. I said it coming out of Foreigner that I was excited to do Dua Lipa. I have a really awesome time with her music, and I wasn't familiar with this album, and I'm glad we got to do it. But I'm also glad that she did this different sound, and she really from front to back does a great job incorporating it and making it feel different and doing what she wanted to on this album. There's a few flubs here, and there is definitely, in my opinion, one miss. But the album in its whole is really, really well done and produced correctly, in my opinion. I must say, I didn't touch on it much here, but there is a little bit of a, in my opinion, a one, I won't say one note, but it stays in this tempo. It stays in this almost redundant tempo a little bit throughout the album, and that is points off in my book here. It has shining moments like we talked about, dance bangers, and the things we're looking for. Ultimately, for me, Radical Optimism is a B.
I'm gonna give it a B minus.
I, I almost gave it a C plus.
Yeah, it just yeah, there's great ideas here, I think, but I just don't think they're all as fleshed out as they could be at times. And some of the songs they just don't fully stick the landing when I wish they did. I mean, there's like a few major high points for me that I will keep going back to. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is a bit of a letdown after Future Nostalgia, and they do. I'm glad that she did something different. I am curious where she's gonna go from here. I will say that.
Agreed.
Yeah, wondering what she'll do next, because I definitely have faith in her to continue being a great pop star. I'm sure she will do it. I just wonder what's next. That's all I can say.
Agreed. What's your favorite song on this album?
Illusion. I'm sure you're shocked by that. answer.
I'm going training session. It's training
Okay.
season. I'm sorry,
I,
training season. I
not a
love
bad
that
answer.
jam.
Not a bad
It
answer.
it is the one that stuck with me the most. I dig that one.
Mine's Illusion. I love it, love it, love it.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, that was our second Rock Hall album. I mostly picked that to discuss the Cher tribute a bit, which we did, so I'm glad that I did that. Um, but we are going to close out our series on Rock Hall albums as we know them, and you picked one, and it's how we're going to end it. It's from an inductee this year. Which one will it be?
So we're taking it back to 91. Every once in a while, we get to jump into the hip hop realm, a place where I have a huge love. And these guys, it was great to see them inducted into any Hall of Fame, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was super cool to see. We're going to go with the boys, A Tribe Called Quest, and we're going to do Low End Theory. I don't know how familiar you are with this album, but I think this is going to be I know it's going to be a great listen, but I think it's going to be a great experience to talk about, really dive back into that 91 mentality and break down some of the hip hop that molded generations to come.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing it. We haven't done a hip hop album in quite some time, actually, so I'm glad that we're diving back into those waters, and I think this is a great group to do it with. So I think there's definitely influence from A Tribe Called Quest on a couple of the hip hop albums we have done.
Oh yeah.
So we've already seen the Descendants to an extent, so let's go back to where it begins. I'm really looking forward to it. And we will see you next time with some low-end theories of our own.
Peace.